Some of the biggest advancements in medicine have been born of battlefield necessity. But this morning, Bob Woodruff reports on cutting-edge science developed on the gridiron that could help troops minimize their chance of injury. Just one of the many military private sector joint projects that will help prevent and treat, we hope, devastating head injuries in soldiers and civilians alike.
And Diane, you know, the number is just really huge. About 1.4 million Americans are affected by traumatic brain injury each year in the United States. And thousands of servicemen and women have been diagnosed with TBI during this war. But now the military and private sector are teaming up to provide the best of modern medicine to those on the battlefield and to civilians who suffer a TBI. These Virginia Tech football players are doing much more than blocking and tackling. They're also helping American troops on the front lines. See their helmets? They're equipped with special sensors that monitor and record impact. The data collected from those sensors helps researchers gauge the magnitude of each impact and their exact location.
So we have these sensors around the helmet picking up the force of the blow and also the direction. So then we can look at that and see where most of these blows are occurring.
Just like in football, the military is hoping these high-tech helmets will help determine just how much is too much and when to pull troops out of the field. We were given an exclusive first look by the military at Fort Belvoir, where they are measuring the power of explosions on test dummies with sensored helmets.
We're experimenting now with helmet devices that will measure the velocity of a soldier's head as it moves, and the soldier will go back to a base and it can be actually downloaded onto a computer, so we measure what that soldier's been exposed to.
Thanks to the work being done by the military and at Virginia Tech on the football field, the helmet sensor will be deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan by spring.
I can measure peak systolic velocity, the end diastolic velocity.
Another groundbreaking high-tech device that is in use now is the Transcranial Doppler, used to measure blood flow inside the brain. This allows doctors to determine a course of treatment as soon as an injury occurs.
The key is to be able to improve the blood flow to the brain at the time of the injury.
So you could actually test in my head right now whether I've got a healthy flow of blood in my brain?
That's correct.
So we took a look. That's the artery?
And this is the middle cerebral artery.
Everything is working as it should. If it were not, we would see an extreme increase in blood flow.
Would you see a big difference if I had just gone through an IED, an explosion?
Yes, I could.
We also got a preview of a device that is currently being tested by military and civilian medical schools. This is called a wobble plate, and it is about 4 to 6 months away from the front lines.
And as you stand in the middle of this, it will see how it shifts your weight around and document that. Much like a prize fighter might get hit, they're a little wobbly, much like a football player when they get a concussion.
The idea is to get this in Iraq so you can actually measure how balanced those are fighting in the war?
Right.
And then compare that to later on if they've been through an IED?
Yes, sir. So we're going to have you stand at attention, facing the arrow.
I decided to see how I would do on the wobble plate.
And we're going to do this for 30 seconds with your eyes open.
But I've got to keep staring straight ahead, right?
Staring straight ahead, yes, sir. And no movement either.
Devices like this one are the result of a collaboration between the military and the private sector.
Okay, now same thing, only got to keep your eyes closed.
Uh-oh.
These devices will get the best of modern medicine to our soldiers in combat and will also help the millions of civilians who suffer a traumatic brain injury each year here at home.
Good. There's a little fatigue at the end. Okay, sir. Relax.
You could see that on there?
Yes, sir.
You saw fatigue?
Yes, sir. Probably got fatigue listening to me, sir. Now, you did great. You did 100%. So that's fantastic.
That's just when I'm staring. Okay.
With your eyes open. Now, with your eyes closed, not as good. You got 95. It's like an A in college. You got an A, sir. You got an A.
Well, you see
well
that.
Done there.
Yeah, I did okay on that one, but I'm going to show you one other thing which is really quite remarkable. This is called a different kind of Doppler. This is actually a handheld Doppler that's run by batteries. So you could have these on the side of the football field, and this could be tested. What you do is you got a player that's maybe hit, maybe got a possible concussion. You can hold this up to the side of the head, and when this is on, you can hear the flow. You can hear the flow. Let me see if I can get some noise on this. What you can do is you get the sound of the flow of the blood that's going through the artery, and you can actually tell what's happened exactly to the brain.
And they're testing for the regularity of that sound. You want a regular sound, and you want it at a certain level.
That's right. You can make if you figure out that the flow has actually been reduced because of this concussion, then you can if certainly in a war, you can decide whether or not to remove part of the skull to allow that brain, which is now expanding, some better help. Or in the game, for example, you could then make the decision whether or not they should get out of the game or stay in the game, in the war or out of the war.
Now, again, for your injury, this is not something that would have been necessary. This is for some of the hidden TBIs.
With mine, it was obvious. I was knocked out, so they knew they had to get the skull off. They had to get me out. But for those that are hit and sometimes don't get knocked down, they don't know the extent of the concussion that they've got. But if you have a tool like this, or the ones we showed you in the piece, then they can make that decision whether or not they should get out or actually have some surgery on them.
Wonderful thing to be able to take this in the battlefield, too.
This is probably going to be tested relatively soon, or actually used on football fields here in this country as well.
That's great. Thanks, Bob. Good to see you. And we'll be right back.